3, 2, 1.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Challenge in the Streets here from the Training Academy studios. Before I introduce today's episode, we just have a couple quick announcements like we sometimes do before the episodes begin. So I can ask the guys in the back to go ahead and put up the flyer for me. Just a reminder, event coming up this Saturday. It's going to be the Chris Higgins Memorial Skate and Hockey Game hosted by the Hooligans Hockey Team. So if anybody's available to attend, it starts at 3:30 at the rink in Anne Arundel, and again, you guys can see that here up on the screen, and you can see the Hooligans Hockey Team social media for some more information on that great event. So if you guys are available, please go out, support the team, support Chris, his family, and the shift. Along with that, I have just like on a personal note. And Chief Davis was much better about this as far as talking about current events, things going on in the department and otherwise than I have been. But I did have the opportunity to attend a pretty special event yesterday, and it's coming up on the 5th anniversary of this fire, so I think it's important to remember. I was fortunate enough to attend what was called a staff ride presented by the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation in conjunction with Frederick County Fire Rescue yesterday that focused on the Ball Road fire and the line of duty death of Captain Josh Laird. We are coming up on the 5-year anniversary of that fire, and as everybody's probably well aware by this point, the CSST-related fire that took his life and Nate Flynn in Howard County a few years before that. So just to, if you're looking for something for a drill or refresher, take a look at that information from that line of duty death. It's still very relevant today, probably more than even the day that fire happened. So it was a great event. I wanted to thank the Frederick County Fire and Rescue Department for that opportunity. Very educational. If you guys have more questions on what that involved, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to provide more information on that. That said, to introduce today's episode. Today's episode is entitled Inside FEI, and we're joined by our panel here that I'll have Captain Braun introduce in a minute. Just the normal housekeeping stuff. If you guys have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat here, and we will try to get to them as we can. In addition to that, this episode is a 60-minute episode, and it's eligible for COPDI credit if you're a chief officer. So please remember, you can put your name in the chat, but also you need to fill out the JOT form on the COPDI page. Last thing, if you're watching with a shift or a group of people, please just try to denote that in the chat also to help us gauge how many are watching live. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Captain Dave Braun, who's going to be the primary moderator for today's episode. So, Dave, take it away.
Thank you, Chief. So, as the Chief said, my name is Captain David Braun. I am the captain of Station 28 on the B shift, and I think we've got a pretty cool video for y'all today. So we're going to be talking to some folks from our Fire and Explosives and Investigations Division, which I think is, I don't want to say secretive, but it's definitely one of the more mysterious units in our department. There's a lot of information, misinformation out there, so hopefully our panel is going to clear some of that up. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce who we have here. So starting from my top left, we have Captain James Bice, who is the Special Operations Section Supervisor and also the Bomb Squad Commander. Next to Captain Bice, we have Lieutenant Chris Moe, who is the Special Investigations Squad Supervisor. And then to my top right, we have Firefighter Campbell, who is a technician. So some of the things we're going to touch on today, process for getting into FEI for those interested, what the police academy's like, the day in and day out, when to call for an investigator, some things that we do in the field to help some of these guys, and some things we do in the field that hurt some of these guys as far as their investigations go. And then we'll talk about some large-scale incident support and some questions. Chief Machado is going to be monitoring the chat, so if you all have questions, by all means, put them in the YouTube. So without further ado, Captain Bice, you want to get us started?
Sure. Thanks, Dave, for having us on. We appreciate it. Always like to talk a little bit about FEI, and just I think you hit the nail on the head there when you talked about there's a lot of, maybe not say misinformation, just maybe not knowing. So hopefully we can clear up a couple things today, and if anybody's interested in FEI, maybe this is a chance for them to kind of take a look and say, you know what, I think I'd like to do that. So just give a little rundown of kind of how we're structured right now. And I don't know if this actually hit the field much, but in January we actually changed our whole configuration. Typically, or historically, we were 4 shifts, and we worked 12 hours. So we worked 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then we followed that up 2 days of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., followed it up with 2 nights of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and then we were off for 4 days. So it's a 2-2-4 schedule. January, that changed to now we have two different divisions, so to speak, or sections. So we have a field operations section and then a special operations section. We now have day work component, and we have a ABC shift. Kind of follows along with the shifts in the field. The ABC shift, that would be the field operations, and then the day work's the special operations, and Chris, the special investigation squad. So typically, as across me here, Eric, right now he's a non-law enforcement officer, so he would work at 24/48. The lieutenants on the shift are law enforcement officers right now, and they work kind of a modified ECC schedule.
Okay.
I say modified because they got to fall within 42 hours to fall, in FLSA hour-wise. So not a bad. It's a little bit of change how we used to operate to how we're operating now. A lot of people don't know where we're located, which is the basement of headquarters. Off the loading dock on side Charlie, that's kind of where you'll find us.
The
on the backside. Yeah, the backside. My primary notification that we get is through phone call.
Yep. Okay. All right. So as far as folks who are interested in joining FEI, so where does that process start? What is it like? And what are some of the things that they're going to encounter going through that process?
Yeah. Chris, you want to touch on that?
Sure. So obviously we would historically we put out an information session time or a couple times where we basically invite people up to wherever we're going to be. Historically, last couple times it's been at the annex, which is where our bomb squad is. So our main office is at headquarters in the basement, and then our bomb squad stuff is behind Station 31. So usually we'll have an information session. We'll try to pass some information on to people about what to expect in the process, and then what to expect if they make it through the process in FEI. Once that information session happens, then there's usually, an announcement, just like anything else in the fire department. And then you, once the people who are interested put in for it, then we have sort of an assessment center. And there's a couple different things that you would do in the assessment center, and that's followed up by an interview. Once you make it through that process, then you go into the law enforcement background process, which is similar to any other law enforcement background process in the state. You fill out a big book. Basically, you have to remember all kinds of things that you probably forgot, where you lived for the past however many years, and neighbors' names and things you've done, maybe, and then that goes to the background investigator, and you work through that book with the background investigator. I guess after that, and sort of concurrent with that, you're doing a psychological exam, a medical exam, polygraph. Am I missing anything else? I think those are the 3 big things: psychological, polygraph, and medical. And then we sort of have created a list of eligible people based on your assessment center and all those pre-hire screenings that we did, and people are selected based on open positions.
Okay. So I know in the past, historically, that it was lieutenants and above as far as those who attended the police academy, and this has recently changed, correct?
Yep.
So can you talk maybe a bit about why that changed and now who's essentially eligible for this?
So, like you said, it had historically always been lieutenants and captains. The captains usually were a product of first being a lieutenant in the office and got promoted. A few years ago, the department decided to allow master firefighters to apply and go through the law enforcement portion of it and go to the police academy. And we have 2 law enforcement master firefighters now that work in the office. Tommy Henry, Craig Lorette. We also have some non-law enforcement folks as well, like Eric, and then I think Haggerty's the only non-law enforcement master.
Wallowitz.
Oh, yeah, sorry, and Wallowitz. Wallowitz has been there for a while, so Wallowitz kind of transitioned from a day work position to a shift work position. So, yeah, the change, I think, probably helped us out. It gave us a bigger pool to pick from. Lieutenant pool was always the smallest group of people. So being able to go to the masters and, you also have the opportunity to get somebody that's a little earlier in their career. So there's a little bit more longevity in the unit. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I think right now we have 1 master firefighter vacancy.
Okay. So, Eric, maybe you can answer this. So you're one of the first that has gone through as a firefighter. Can you talk a little bit about your process leading up to?
Absolutely. So, like Lieutenant Mo said, historically it's only been officer-based. And I could remember being a recruit, and when they rolled FEI in, I knew immediately that's where I wanted to go. I know some people come into the department and they want to be squad drivers and they want to be engine drivers. I identified FEI right away as that's where I want to go. I didn't know how I was going to get there just because I knew you had to be an officer. So every informational meeting that they had, I would show up anyway. I was a 5'3", nowhere close to being a master or anything like that, but I would show up anyway just to learn, just to kind of figure out what was going on. So anyway, long story short, I got wind that they were thinking about allowing 5'3s on board. So immediately I tried to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to align myself with the position? So I studied. I just kind of went to work, and I started hopping online and reading articles and doing little stuff here and there until I could figure out how to apply and all these other things. Now, as far as the process, it's extensive. It's extensive. The police background is very extensive. And it's nerve-wracking, too. So, it's one of those things where you go through the process and you just have to have integrity. At the end of the day, a lot of people are afraid to apply just because they don't know what's going to happen with the background. That's a big thing. But ultimately, just have integrity. Just walk in the door, have integrity, and go through the process. And now that we're on the other side of that, it's a dream come true. We're allowed to do some of the coolest work in the department, and we support these guys, and it's been one great ride so far.
And now you have a pathway.
Exactly. So
Essentially.
And that's a big thing. I was brought in with Colin Anderson and Damian Madamba, and we recognized right away as 5'3s we were the first. And there were gray areas, of course. When you're the first of anything, you have to kind of figure it out. There's trial and error. There's all those different things. And we recognize that because we're the first, that we need to set the tone and set the trend for everybody behind us. So, we take pride in that, and we're honestly happy to be the front runners in terms of setting up what that pathway looks like for all of the 5'3s that are coming in the door. And that's important, right? When you get here, you want to make sure that there's a pathway for, all your professional ambitions and things of that nature. So it's been a fun ride trying to put that all together for everybody else.
Yeah, I also like what you said about as far as the background goes, and I'm sure they could touch more on this, but integrity being the most important part. So
Absolutely.
I have been through and completed successfully a police background check, and I can tell you my own experience that was the statement that was repeated to me over and over and over again
Right.
was it's not so much what's in your background, it's just you got to be open about it. And the minute that they find that you're not being open about it, that's a huge red flag in your
Absolutely.
So, and I'm sure you two would both agree with that.
Yeah,
statement.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so you go through the background, you go through the polygraph, you go through the psychological. Now you've got another academy, another 6-month academy to attend. So you're basically going back to recruit school on the other side. And
Yeah.
a lot of times as a seasoned public safety employee, so let's talk a little bit about that, what that's like, preparing for the academy, attending the academy. Obviously the pressures and such, as I'm sure you're both aware of fire rescue, there's going to be expectations out of you to sort of already know the process and how to act. So
I'm sure you're treated no differently.
argument.
No, you're not. I mean, that's
I hope so.
yeah. I mean, so when Bryce and I came in, we came in together. We went to the academy together. Obviously we were lieutenants, so we were older. I think I was 35 when I started.
Yeah, I remember
academy.
seeing you
Yeah.
old. Yeah, yep.
So I'm in there with 21-year-olds, and I think I was the second or third oldest. I think I was the second oldest person. We were the second or third oldest person in the academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the academy, it's about 7 months. It changes here and there because certain times in different academies, you end up having to come back for a couple weeks to do a class here or there that they didn't do in the academy. But it's about 7 months, and they really don't treat you differently. And that's something we talk about a lot, is we don't want to get treated differently, because it's important to us that when we run calls with these police officers on a daily basis, that they know that we went through and endured the same thing that they endured in the academy. So they really don't treat us differently while we're there. But yeah, it's about 7 months, and then once you're done, we have what's called a field training program that you have to go through, FTO program. And the FTO programs, it's a long program. I mean, it takes us in our unit about 8 months to
Yeah, so
get through it.
start to finish, it's about 18 months from the time we go through process, advertising, go through the assessment center we do to get them in the academy, to get them out to do our field training evaluation program. It's about 18 months,
Okay, wow.
start to finish.
All right, and the field training program, that's with the investigations division, right? That's not with in other words, you're not riding with a police officer basically doing police work, or are you doing a bit of both?
Yeah, so we broke it. It's broken up into a couple of different phases. And when they come out of the academy, because it's important to take some of that skill set that you got in the police academy, because you will be out there in the streets and come across things where you might have to help. So we do have them ride with a patrol officer for about a month, 4 weeks. And then once they get done with that, they come back to us, go through fire investigations training, take the laws and apply that to the fire investigation component, and then we get into kind of the investigative things. We try to get them into some type of detective bureau, whether that's at a local level, at a district station, special investigations, something like that, to where they can get specialized kind of investigative skills before coming back to us.
Okay. What would you say the biggest differences are between the police and the fire academy?
Chris and I, we were actually talking about this a little earlier. We're like, man, it's been a little while since we went through the fire academy, but I think probably the biggest difference to me, and Chris, you can certainly chime in, it's kind of the level of thinking independently in a way. I guess the way I'd frame it, because if you're in a patrol car, you're by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You show up to a scene, other people are coming, but you're the first one there. It's not like you're arriving on the scene in either EMS unit where you have a partner with you, or on a fire truck where you have 4 people or 3 people with you.
With direct supervision.
With direct supervision. So now we have, and Chris, both of us and he did a little bit longer, but we taught at the police academy. We did evoc instructors for them, and you get people who just got their driver's license before coming to the police academy. Now they're out there on high-speed tracks driving police cars
with me in the passenger seat.
right, which is nerve-wracking. It's one thing being in a fire truck, but you're going at a high rate of speed in a police car with somebody who just got their license. Yeah. A little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I'd probably say that component for me is the difference.
Cool. So you get through the academy, right? You guys are obviously both bomb technicians, so I'm assuming that's part of the follow-on training. So what's that like? Obviously you can't speak in specifics on the school. I'm a little familiar with it, but how long until that becomes part of your process, if that's a choice, and is it a choice, or does everybody eventually take that role on?
Yeah, I mean, I would love it for everybody to take on the role. It's not necessarily a requirement, but it's kind of one of those things where we have to have people to do it. So, we talked about it's about 18 months from the time we advertise a position to get them checked out and as part of staffing. It's a 2-year wait from the time I send an application for somebody to go to bomb squad or bomb
The school.
bomb technician, which is in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. But it is a 2-year waiting period. So that's another 2 years on top of the almost 2 years that we're at already. But once they do go to Alabama, you go down for 6 weeks to where you're down there for the entirety of that time.
Okay.
And then that's kind of like, you think about the fire academy, police academy, that's the basics. You're learning the basics. And then following up on that, there's numerous classes, homemade explosives, advanced explosive disorder, or getting rid of ordnance, getting rid of different things, and just a variety of training.
Sure. So obviously there's other disciplines you can take on within your section. Can you talk a little bit about those?
So we talked about a little in the beginning. We talked about field operations, and we talked about the special operations section. So kind of the way that we like to think about it is, the field operations would be patrol for us. And then special operations section, special investigations would be getting into a detective bureau. So within our unit, you have the opportunity to become a bomb tech. You have the opportunity to become a fire investigator. We train you how to because we do everything start to finish. We show up on a call. We determine the origin of calls. We collect evidence. We process evidence. And then that evidence goes to different places, whether it be, explosives might go to Quantico. It might go to ATF lab. If it's, something where we want fingerprints or, some kind of DNA or something like that, it'll stay with the county police. So you also get trained in evidence collection, processing. So we call those evidence, evidence collection, or what's the term, Eric?
Like EPCs?
EPC, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, evidence custodian. So that's kind of a whole nother set in there. And then, aside from being a bomb tech or a fire investigator or collecting evidence and being our technician for that, we also have all the apparatus that we got to get out. So on the bomb squad side of things, we have numerous robots that we train people in, and numerous trucks that we got to get out, given a certain call type as well.
Yeah, but we also have other stuff too, like like I was a canine handler for 7 years. So that was another 6-week school that I lived in Virginia for, in a hotel again. But we have things like that. There's a couple of us who do the phone stuff. So that requires going out of state and going to training and long training and stuff like that. So there's lots of different things outside of the titles that you can do. And everybody has their own, little niche thing that they do in our unit.
Absolutely.
There's somebody that's a go-to, everybody is a go-to for something.
Okay. And you guys also support other agencies, right? And do work with other agencies and so on and so forth.
So this is kind of my question, because I think a lot of people probably don't know. So you guys basically will take a case essentially and work it from beginning to end, right? You might use some outside help, but I mean, you mentioned like the phone thing, right? I mean,
Yep.
they collecting evidence from cell phones. I mean,
Yeah.
even something down to like interviewing, right?
Yep.
Like there's techniques to that, and there's training that's involved with that. So you guys basically take everything from going out there on the scene, processing all the evidence, doing the interviews to start to finish, basically till it goes to trial potentially, right? If it's a criminal case.
Yeah. So we like you said, I mean, it's sometimes hard with just a few people, but we do everything that multiple units in the police department would do, right? So like you said, we'll respond to the call, we conduct interviews on the scene, we collect evidence, then somebody has to process the evidence, then somebody has to enter the evidence, then we have to transport the evidence to wherever we're going.
That's a lot.
You know, all those kinds of things, interviewing suspects, arrest, you know, all kinds of things. So, yeah, start to finish.
Cool. So, and I know this is going to be a different answer depending on who you are, but let's talk about the day-to-day, what it's like. You're out of training. You're now in the unit, serving different roles. So, Eric, you want to start what your day-to-day is like?
Sure. So our role in the unit, we support these guys. Again, we're field operations. So a lot of what we do, we handle the accidental fires. And a lot of times when we show up on scene, our job is to show up, technically document the scene. So we'll go through documentation in terms of digital photography, different things of that nature. And then once we get that done, we may have some interviews to do. I try not to do my interviews until after I go in and kind of take a look before. You just don't want to start talking to people and get pigeonholed into thinking one thing. But yeah, we just go in, we identify what the ONC is, and where they come in is if we find out that there's something nefarious going on, then we take all that information that we gathered, whether it's the evidence, whether it's the interviews, you know, all the different things, the digital photography, you know, what I find is worth for the ONC, and we turn that over to special operations, and then they kick in and they actually go after, you know, the potential suspects and things of that nature. But for the most part, there's a lot that goes into it. You know, that's just one part of it. You know, what a lot of people don't see is we write a lot of reports, even on our side, you know. So that's something people need to be aware of, too, is that, you know, we're not just kind of sitting around and hanging out, but there's always work to do. We're always doing something. Like Lieutenant said and Captain said, you know, we got vehicles that need to go out. So we have 2 different bomb squads. We have a scene truck, so the big black truck that a lot of people see us driving most of the time, that truck has all of our gear in it, all of our stuff, the stuff that we need to collect evidence and to determine the ONCs and to do delayering of the incident and all that other stuff. So we have to keep that up and running. Then we have robots, so we have to maintain those. We have to make sure all those are running well, and we have to make sure that the batteries are functioning and all that other different stuff. So there's a whole lot that goes into what we do. But on our side of it, most of it is just to make sure that we support those guys so they can go out and do what they need to do in terms of arresting the people that do bad stuff.
Right on.
Yeah.
For some of our younger folks out there, when Eric mentions ONC, origin and cause.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, no, it's okay. The ditties are fine. It's all good. So, Lieutenant Mo, yeah, I haven't used that word in a while. What's your day-to-day like?
So like, you know, like we talked about before, so I'm in the special investigation squad. So essentially, we'll take the larger casework, the things that require more time, because we work day work. So we'll take the first-degree arsons, the second-degree arsons, you know, sprees, explosions, fatalities, things like that take more time than say the law enforcement lieutenant that works on 24-hour shift would have time to feasibly be able to, you know, find a positive outcome. So we take all that information and then we spend our days, our weekdays, working on those cases. And it's not to say that the lieutenants in field operations, though, they also work criminal cases. Mm-hmm. So they'll still make on-view arrests, which means something happens, the bad guy's there, they still arrest them. They'll still work other cases that don't and don't look like they're going to take too much time. But it's just hard when you're on 24 hours and then you're off for 2 days and then you come back for 24 hours and you have a double Kelly. to be able to work a case all the way through. So we end up taking the bigger ones, and that's pretty much what my squad spends our days doing, is working those kinds of cases.
Okay, cool. Captain Bice, the puppet master.
Yeah. Well, primarily put out fires. But, so, for me, overseeing the bomb squad and, the special investigations, Lieutenant Mo, they do a fantastic job. So for my input into that is very little. One of the things I do want to highlight, the great job they're doing, we it's tough sometimes metric-wise to gauge how good you're doing. But one of those is case closure. So nationally in arson cases, what was it, Chris, 24%, 22%, somewhere around there. Right now, the Special Investigations Squad, sounds like I get tongue-tied saying it, they're about 73%.
77.
77, I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't mean to knock it down a couple percent. So they're about 77%, that's a tremendous, more than double, almost triple, really what the national average is. So there's not much I have to do there. So really I look at, the bomb squad, what do we need equipment-wise? And you asked about, we work with other people. For me, I'm also ATF task force officer, so busy doing stuff, helping out ATF where that's needed. We also FBI. I probably have a lot more to talk about than just an hour, but the bomb squad falls under the FBI. We are accredited through the FBI, so every few years they come in and do a new accreditation to make sure we have the equipment we need to operate as a bomb squad, and we're facilitating the training as well. We talked about some of the external training we do. We have to do 24 hours at a minimum per month to maintain our bomb tech certification. And that's all things that the FBI, when they come in, that I got to showcase. So, for me, it's a lot of admin work, a lot of preparing for trainings. We work closely with the county police a lot, Gaithersburg City, Rockville City. We got a couple pretty exciting trainings coming up with that. Maryland State fire marshals, we work with them a lot. So my role is more of kind of a facilitator and liaison almost.
He's the guy I send all my emails to.
I'm the guy Chris sends all his emails to. Yeah. And when I don't follow up, I hear from him. So,
yeah. All right. So with that being said, I think we're going to go a little bit into field operations. And if you don't mind, I'm going to tell a really quick story here that I think will give context to this. So I was a brand new lieutenant. I was working out of Station 32. I actually think this was like one of my first shifts ever as an officer. And obviously 32, very busy. Around the evening, we had ran a call for a speed camera. And you guys might be familiar with this. I think Phil was the one that responded on this, but said it was a speed camera on fire. Now, at the time, the speed cameras, they already had like that armor around them. So already the call was kind of questionable, thinking like, what is this? So we pull up, and sure enough, there's a speed camera, and there's something on top of it that's on fire. It's a little fireball. Didn't think nothing of it. Pulled the engine up right up to it. So we all kind of get out, and I'm looking at this object that's on fire, and it looks like a coffee can. And I'm like, it's kind of odd. And then I noticed there's some graffiti on the camera itself that kind of signifies that it was someone, basically trying to destroy it. So the object that was on fire it was an homemade IED. And it wasn't, I'm not going to say it was properly constructed, but there was enough there where whoever was making this was maybe a few steps off from actually making something destructive. It had shrapnel, it had an explosive device, it had a fuse. And I'm intimately familiar with IEDs. So it kind of shocked me at first because I didn't even consider what it was. And then I'm kind of looking around and I see, oh, wow, my engine is literally in the direct path of this device. My firefighters are in the direct path of this device. There's neighbors out. It's in a congested area. If this thing would have gone off, it would have caused some significant harm. And I say that story because, I don't think folks out in the field hear a lot about the bomb calls and stuff like that, but they're out there. And given our proximity in the region that we work in, it's a very real threat. So I'm actually kind of excited to get this part. So we're going to go into essentially what goes into a call, what you guys are called out for, and how we go about that. And then we'll get into, as far as operations go, how we help and how we hurt.
Okay. Yeah. So, talked about in the beginning, our primary means of notification is cell phone. Whether chief's on the scene, they need us, they'll call us, or we listen into every box. If you're at the station, you'll see the suspicious package or the bomb plant call that pops up. We always chime in, listen into that, see if we're needed. So we talked about the special operations section. In the field operations section, which Captain Aaron Worth is the section supervisor for that. In that section, you have 3 lieutenants, 2 masters. Chris said one's vacant, and 3 fire 3s. So they're the primary means of responding to all the calls. They're the ones that are going to, just like patrol, respond out. And then if it's something, a fatality, an explosion, the special investigations squad is going to come out and handle that investigation. But from the beginning, it might be, Chief Machado might be working night. He might have something and give us a call. So from the start, that's how kind of the ball starts to roll. We get the notification, and then we respond out. Field ops personnel, which today we, Eric and Phil Wallowitz and then Lieutenant Baker. So they would come out to the call and kind of determine and assess what the needs are they have, and then we kind of go from there.
Okay, cool. So special investigations, you guys get called out. What are some examples?
Yeah,
so called out for.
So for us, it's most of the time, like you said, I think the biggest thing to understand is just that the field operations guys like Campbell they're the ones that are going to respond there right away. And once they determine something's weird, like your instance that you were talking about, they would notify us. All right, they would still do what they need to do on the scene. They're still going to conduct interviews, do some canvassing, collect the evidence, process the evidence, and all that. And then that stuff would get forwarded to us, and then we would go through our process of, determining who made it, how they made it, a whole bunch of other things.
Sure.
All the necessary puzzle pieces that we need to criminally charge somebody with constructing the IED. So I think that it's important, though, just while we're talking about the difference between field ops and SIS, is really that, like, we couldn't do what we're doing if they didn't do what they're doing. So the reason that we're able to close cases, although the stats come from I'm giving you the stats and he's talking about the stats of SIS, we can only get there because they did a good job on the scene doing the things that they needed to do to help support the case. So it is a huge team. We're really a huge team. We're just kind of separated into 2 responsibilities.
That's a good point.
Is there any time that you guys come out to the scene? Like, if they see something that they're like, whoa, wait a second, like, this is something that we think this is first-degree arson, we have this, like, would you come out?
So if we're working, if it's Monday through Friday, and we're working during the day, we'll come out. If it's one of those things that we talked about, depending on the scenario, a fatality, we're coming out, a significant first-degree arson or something like that, we're not necessarily on call, but we are all sort of on call, right? So we would come in for that, and that's happened several times this year since we went to the new this new organization. But yeah, not every time, but when things are necessary and have to be followed up on, or there's a threat, immediate threat, and something has to get done right away, and it's kind of outside the scope of one law enforcement person working, then we'll come in.
Very good. And as far as the actual call-outs go for field ops, going through ECC, asking for an investigator is a preferred method, and I'm sure there's multiple reasons for that, but you guys are available on cell phones if need be.
Yep, 24/7. Yep.
Okay, very cool. So, all right. So as a company officer, right, and I think I already know the answer to this. I can either help or I can hurt. Mm-hmm. And again, I know some of the things that are about to be said, but I can rest assured it's going to lean heavily towards probably hurt. So
it's probably the same things like when I took the collision reconstruction class. That was the whole
everything.
The whole class was about like what fire rescue does to mess up the scene. Like you're right.
We're a destructive force. So, but that's why we're doing this, so we can kind of touch on that. And I know that in my own company officer upbringing, I mean, this wasn't something that was really discussed much at all. And it's usually not until you do something wrong and then you find out that, oh, you know, now I.
Like you said, it's not malicious, but
Yeah,
a lot
right,
of times you just
right.
don't know.
Just don't know. Yeah.
So, are there any positives that, before we get into the negatives?
Break it to us gently.
Yeah.
The field does it. We do a good job. You're given as much information, sometimes very limited in nature. So, you get to the scene, you're making the best decisions with the information you have at that time. And some of, I think you kind of talked a little bit about the IED on top of the speed camera, and that's one of the things for me that kind of, not that scenario, but that does worry me a little bit because we are very much, we see problem, we want to handle the problem, and mitigate the emergency. Well, sometimes just taking a step back, breathing, and seeing what you got. Especially when we start talking about explosives, like you have to really, really just be mindful and really take in everything that you're seeing on the scene. If you see a wall that's bowed out, a garage door that's blown out, something happened, and you really need to just take a step back and say, all right, something happened at this house. It doesn't look right, and hopefully intuition kind of jump in and kind of spark that reaction to kind of have that. So on a positive side, I think the field does a good job. It's there are things I don't expect them to know as far as evidence collection and stuff like that. And first and foremost, we have to if there's a life to be saved, we're going to save a life. If there's property to be saved, generally speaking, going to try to save it. I think where we go wrong sometimes is we get a little too involved in stuff. And a couple examples I have are both cases that Chris and I worked on, and it's in the realm of evidence. This one was out in 15's area, off of Parkford Manor, and this is probably one of the only examples I know of where somebody's used a jammer to jam public safety radios.
Oh, wow.
So, multiple times over the course of, and again, this is a good example where communication and relaying information comes in as well. So patrol had been getting these intermittent kind of in and outs on the radios going through that area. They'd gone out, couldn't find anything wrong with the radios. I guess 2 weeks, Chris, after that, maybe 3 weeks. Fire department goes out for a fire in the building there. Their radios weren't working. I think they used talk around at the time. It was a local fire alarm, so it's not like there was an alarm company. So first arriving unit gets there. The door had been kicked in. They found some Molotov cocktails that were, I think one was unbroken, maybe two of them broken. So rule number one, if you do see something like that, don't touch it.
Right.
Right. Especially with bare hands, please.
Right.
It was touched with bare hands. And so now that kind of comes into the process with us. All right, now we have to exclude this because we need to get fingerprints from everybody that was involved with it. Right. With that guy, not just jamming, but he also wanted to kill the people that were in this apartment, which just happened to be an off-duty DC firefighter. And luckily they weren't home because he was going to do it. So had, that evidence, which was the Molotov cocktails, that when we did a search warrant on his apartment, we found numerous things that tied him to that. If that was destroyed or, thrown out the window with overhaul, we probably wouldn't have been able to find it and tie that kind of back to some of the stuff that the guy had in his apartment. So to me, that's probably the start, where fire department responds in, puts the fire out, does some overhaul, check for extension, and then they go home. That's really where we just start. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really thinking about the totality, or kind of what may seem benign or minor. We might be spending hours upon hours investigatively on that call.
Yeah, and something interesting about that. I'm sure you all know what the percentage of fires are arsons, but we do know that arsonists kill firefighters like that. That is typically their target. That is who they're coming after. So that is one of our greatest threats. What percentage of fires are arsons? Do you know?
Overall?
Yeah.
I don't even know that stat. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the only thing I would add to what James was talking about is sometimes it's things you don't even think of too. Like I remember running a call years ago. I don't even remember whose first due it was in, but I showed up and I was talking to the wagon driver, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's definitely starting the outlet. It was very obvious. You'll see like the V coming off. You know, everybody remembers the V from reading your IFSTA book.
Yeah.
And he's like, you'll see the V coming right off the outlet." And I was like, okay, fine. Walk downstairs. There was no walls by that point. They removed every single wall. Right. The outlet was there, but the entire wall was gone.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that would have been a great to take a picture of, but the wall was gone. So like, we get it. You know, you got to put the fire out. You got to do overhaul. You know, but you don't have to completely destroy the house in every circumstance. If you do, you do. If you got to look for hidden fire, we get that, right? We've all been to fires, and I know how that goes. So you do what you got to do. But if there's a point where you can just stop for a second and you're like, oh, this room looks really burned up. I think it probably started in here. I poked a few holes in the wall. I don't see any fire back there. My thermal imager doesn't show much heat. Do I really need to rip this down, or can I wait until after the investigators get here? Right. I would say that's important. And then one thing I try to stress is if you are on a fire and it's something that you think, you know, just as, because a lot of times the firefighters have pretty good intuition. Like I show up a lot and they're like, I don't know, this is weird, right? Something's weird. Sure. So if you're feeling that, or the command officer is feeling that, or you just aren't sure, don't let people return back inside the house to get things, right? Especially for us, cell phones. Because things like that, for us, if it does turn out to be a crime, the only way for us then to retrieve that is a whole long process that we otherwise wouldn't have had to do if we didn't allow them to go right back inside, right? Like we'll let those people back inside, but give us, you know, the 10 or 15 minutes to respond to the scene first before. And if there's ever that situation, I would just say the command officer, you know, they know how to get a hold of us. Company officers know how to get a hold of us. Call us and just say, hey, this lady needs her medicine, and she has to take it right now. Can we let her back in? Yeah.
I think that's one of those basic, you know, I would think is a basic thing, the chain of custody whole thing, right? Just for company officers, right? Just you got to maintain the scene. If we're calling FEI, right, we're not just everybody doesn't come out of the house at the same time and go to rehab. We do have to maintain that chain of custody, maintain a presence in that house. Yep. I ran a weird call one time, and I forget the investigator that came out. It was one of those, we were bringing stuff out. We wanted them to come out. We suspected there might be something malicious going on, and the occupant literally, it was like an Airbnb or something. They were renting the basement out, went back in, locked the door, and wouldn't let us in. Yeah. And it was like, why did everybody come out? Like, it is one of it happened, and I don't even know what ended up happening with it, but yeah, you be careful with that.
And I don't want to piggyback on everything, but I will say, just being on the field op side of it, when we go into a structure and we're trying to do the origin and cause, the biggest problem would be the excessive overhaul, and that's the biggest thing that makes our job truly, truly hard. So we would ask everybody, when you go into these structures and you're trying to put that fire out, we get it. Life safety, property, all that stuff's top priority. But do just enough to ensure its extinguishment, and then kind of leave that scene for us to like find those little bits, those little clues that give us some insight on how this thing started. Like Lieutenant said, sometimes we go into a structure and everything's ripped down to the studs, and we have no clue where to even start to look because there's nothing left. So we would kindly ask first responder units to, take care of us a little bit, because you got to understand, they're our eyes and our ears before we get there, right? So when we walk on scene, we're relying on them to give us feedback, give us information. So excessive overhaul is one, and then the next thing is just clear communication, right? So a lot of times firefighters come on, the adrenaline's going, everybody up, and, we need to know exactly what you saw, not what you thought happened, right? And a lot of people get so emotional and they get so ramped up about everything that's going on. So I think one of the biggest ways they can help us is A, put that thing out, but try to leave us something to work with, and B, keep your head on a swivel. Like, look at things and notice the weird burn patterns. Notice incendiary devices that are Molotov cocktails in the corner. Look how strange the occupants of the home are acting. All those little things help us out to determine what's really going on, because a lot of times when you go in as a firefighter, you're thinking, oh yeah, it started over here. And, they do their thing, they put it all out, and they walk away. And then when we come in, we start realizing that, wait a minute, it didn't start over here. And guess what? There was something really nefarious going on.
Yep.
And a lot of times, if they leave us a little bit to work with, we can get to what's really important a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those calls, I mean, they're not, I don't want to say they're common, but they happen. I mean, that jamming of the public set, that blows my mind. That's like incredibly complex, but it's not surprising, right? And I'm sure there's going to be more like that. So
I was just going to say real quick, I know we're short on time, but just one, I think this is probably the most important thing is, and I just want to say this so that everybody hears it, is a lot of times we ask people on the scene, and a lot of times I think it's newer or younger firefighters who just don't have enough, they don't know us personally. Right. And we ask them, like, give us your account of what happened. Did you force the door? Did you break that window? And I won't say that we got maybe just the entirety of what occurred wasn't relayed. And I just want people to know that we're not asking that because we're looking to
get them in trouble.
Get them in trouble, right?
them.
Like, I don't care. I don't care.
Slap them on. Right.
I don't care what you were wearing when you kicked the front door in, right? Like, I just need to know: was that you that kicked the door in, or was that a suspect, right? Like, so when we do ask those things, or we ask people to write statements, those things are for us. Right. It's not for us. We're not going after anybody. We don't call our battalion chief and ask him to, instill some discipline on somebody, and we don't, so I just want everybody to know that because I think sometimes there's some hesitation when I talk to people, especially the younger folks that don't know us, and I'll say, like, did you kick that door? And they're like, no. Okay.
We talked about this earlier, stone face, but he's a teddy bear.
Right.
It's okay. You can talk to him.
Okay.
I give hugs.
Yeah, I get it. I'd be concerned you're going to arrest me too. I'd probably make up a whole story.
We've hugged Braun.
More than once.
I'm pretty sure I've been fake arrested.
Where's my hug?
Yeah. All right. So, let's talk a little bit for the command officers out there. Large scale incidents, right? How you integrate with that, some of the things that you can assist with.
Yeah. So, knock on wood, we went through a period where we were having building explosions. It felt like every 12 months, 18 months.
Yeah, a lot more common.
Yeah. So from being on those and kind of what I've learned, that's the easiest thing, because a lot of times I think, from a command perspective, you're looking at managing the incident and really managing that incident kind of what I guess your scope is at that point, which is, life safety and property conservation. When we come on the scene and use these building explosions, Arla Street or Friendly Gardens or even Quince Orchard kind of as an example, kind of our priorities is along that, well, who's missing? Things such as, who went to the hospital, if we get notes on that, who took them, what were the injuries? So we don't have to track that down because and I can speak on the Arla Street one because that was extremely difficult, trying to figure out who took who, what the injuries were, who are we missing. So, these large scale incidents, command has, their part, which is the entirety of the scene. So integrating us into kind of, bring us up and I think our command officers do a great job now, kind of seeing what we need, what our needs are, and then working as a team to kind of accomplish what they need to get done, and also from our kind of mission, what we need to do. But starting that early in terms of what's needed, from FEI and facilitating those needs goes a long way in the incident, I think, and managing it. If it's a building explosion or, heaven forbid, if we have another James Lee, which is the Discovery Channel back in 2010, I was at Company 1 for that, and that was a large-scale operation I don't think anybody wanted to be in charge of, but
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, you just never know when something like that might happen. So I think from the get-go, just establishing that that rapport with the fire investigators. If you don't know them, we're always happy to come out and do battalion-based stuff and kind of explain who we are and kind of how we operate, what we need to do, and even do training in the battalions and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. All right, so the last thing I want to touch on before we open it up for questions, assistance training at the station, battalion level, is that something that you all do, that you can do, and how do we go about that?
Yeah, so we're always willing to help out, do trainings, whether it be, if at Station 28, for example, in the hazmat realm with explosives, there's a lot of crossover. I've done, we do a lot of things, I shouldn't say just me, but we've done a lot of things with the robots and metering. So how would you operate on a scene with hazmat, and what capabilities do we bring to that to help accomplish the overall goal? So, at an individual or at a station level, or even a battalion, if a chief wants to do something, maybe even scenario related, or just a classroom type presentation, we're more than happy to come out and do that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
That's
Very
good.
cool. All right. Well, I think that's a good point to end it on, given the time. So, any final thoughts before we open it up for questions? No.
Didn't really have any questions. Somebody brought up wanting to talk about a specific case, but I don't think we have time for that, unfortunately. I had one question and then one comment. So to your point about when we talked about command officers and how you guys kind of integrate. Obviously, FEI is a good resource. I mean, I've had people call me with questions that maybe aren't fire investigations related, but are law enforcement related that somehow interface with the fire department. And I'm like, I don't really know the answer. This doesn't really rise to the level of suspicious activity where we're going to call the police and fill out the form and stuff like that. But I'm like, call the on-duty FEI, right? You're law enforcement officers and you have a fire department background. Even if they're not going to solve the problem, they'll at least be able to give us the correct guidance, right, based on being a law enforcement officer. So that and the Quince Orchard, I was there relatively early, and I saw the integration and how involved you guys were in, like you said, locating the people. I think that's huge, right, because of the law enforcement resources and relationships you have. Just help, hey, who lives in these apartments? Where are they? Where do they work? How do we get in contact with them? Are they home? Were they not? That was big on that incident for sure. And then the last one I have personally, right? So if we decide that we're confident with the cause and origin, right? We talk to the company officers, the incident commander. I go in there, look at it. Yeah, I'm confident based on my experience that I got the cause and origin. I've called before, right? Just hey, have FEI call my cell or whatever, or I'll call you guys, and I like to just talk through it, right? I don't know, maybe it's hand holding, maybe it's not, but hey, this is what I see. I don't need you guys to come out. I just want to run this by you real quick. This is what I'm seeing. Does it all jive to you? That's something you guys are open to. I'm assuming it doesn't bother you too much when we do that, right?
No, not at all. Yep.
And then if we don't have you guys come out, if you're like, yep, no, I'm good with that. That's I'm good with what you're seeing. That makes sense. We're not going to come out, or we don't need to come out. That's cool. Is there anything specifically that we should do, right, as the people writing the incident reports or the incident commander? Should I take some pictures of different things just in case something comes back? I mean, obviously, I'm going to try to do as detailed of an incident narrative as I can, but do you have any tips for that, for when you don't come out?
I would. So if you're doing stuff, if you did take pictures and stuff like that, the only time that's going to come up is in civil litigation. I don't know how much you'd want to get yourself wrapped up in that stuff. If it was me, I probably wouldn't take any pictures. Plausible deniability. But yeah, I mean, just the normal, what you guys are doing now, I think works fine, because we do reference reports that of calls that we never went out to. I don't think we've ever had an issue, as far as I know.
Okay. No, because Eric said we do a lot of writing. We have multiple different reporting platforms we have to report on. So stuff like that's not a big. It doesn't bother us at all. We have had it. I will just throw in this disclaimer. Several years ago, Chris and I ran it, but the fire department determined it was electrical in nature, and really the guy doused the electrical meter with gasoline trying to set the house on fire. We just happened to see it by really accident, I guess.
Yeah, he was actually turned out to be a legit serial arsonist
all over the state. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
We appreciate the phone call. You know what? Throw it in our court. We always let us make the decision on it, which is fine.
So we do have an extra minute, so I'll just throw. I don't know if you could speak to this quickly. The question was just brought up, or the comment about the Crawford case. Just so that was a good example of working with partner agencies and how you guys help. Can you just like quickly speak to what that was and how you guys worked with partner agencies on that, or is that something you could do quickly? Or
I mean, I'll just really quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, yeah, we worked with multiple different jurisdictions within the state, and then the State Fire Marshal's office had some investigators involved. The ATF helped us out. They had some agents, and we used their lab and stuff like that. We used the FBI lab. So when you talk about using and working with multiple jurisdictions, I think that's probably in my a little over 11 years of being in the unit. That's probably the only case where I've worked with that many people on one case.
I'm sure people could probably look up information on that
Yeah.
if they wanted to know more. And sorry, I got one more. I'm going to take everybody's time. Auto fires, right? That's come up recently. I've heard people, some discussion about auto fires. Like, when do we call you for an auto fire? Obviously, if it's parked behind the elementary school at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, probably going to call FEI out, right? But in general, I've heard of people, committing insurance fraud quite frequently, with fire and autos. What's an indication somebody should call you out in an auto fire? Is there a specific one?
If it's if the driver's in the car and they say I was driving down the road and smoke was coming from the dash, the story checks out, feels like it checks out. You probably don't need a call. So although going back to the phone call, not a problem. If you get there and the driver's not there, obviously you should just have us come out. But I would say that's one of those things where just give us a call, let us know what you have, and we'll
think of the totality.
Yeah.
Using that intuition, just like another
totality, right? Like we've definitely had calls where cars are burned up in the middle of a field in a rural area at 3 a.m, and we never got a phone call.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that too. Yeah.
Just the totality.
I'd say common sense, but we know.
Just place a call. That's all.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to hijack any more time.
No, you're good.
Back to you,
You're good.
Dave.
So, all right. Well, that puts us right at about the hour mark. So I think this is a good spot to end it. So first, I want to thank my guests for coming out and talking to us. Hopefully everyone listening got some good information. I know I did. Again, I know this is one of those areas of our department that just isn't talked about a lot. So now we kind of have this video for those that maybe are interested in it or want to learn something. And then, of course, if any follow-on training or any stuff like that, by all means, reach out to some of these guys and they'll get you squared up. So thank you all for coming out and talking. And until next time, I guess we'll cut it here.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yep.